Alright, this video is on fair and equal treatment. And I can tell you, first of all, that this racism stuff, yeah, it's real. I was incarcerated with quite a few minorities, and I can tell you that being a minority, well, that does increase your chances of getting locked up. It increases your chances of getting shot. It increases your chances of having someone call you in as if you're a thief just for walking down the street. Who else knows what that feels like? Homeless. The homeless people know what that feels like. See, minorities got it bad in this country. They really do. But do you know who's got it worse than the minorities? The homeless. You know who's got it worse than the homeless? Homeless minorities. When I was in Arapahoe County Jail, I took a show of hands twice, two different church groups, to ask how many people were homeless when they were incarcerated. In one of those groups, all of them held up their hand. And in another group, it was almost all of them. Yes, Miss Elizabeth, a lot of homeless people agree. That's why the police absolutely refuse to take a statement from any homeless person. Of course, there's also the homeless person point of view, which is you don't talk to cops. The reason for that is because the cops are not your friends. The cops are the rich people's friends. The cops are upper middle class people's friends. And then it all goes downhill from there. If you're middle class, you might be able to sue them. If you're poor, you're SOL. A lot of people said, well, didn't you get compensated for what they did? No, I wasn't allowed to make a police report. I was illegally prevented from making a police report on multiple occasions. Well over 100 police officers took part in this. If you want to count the guards at the jails and the detectives and police here that I had to deal with, we're probably looking at 200 to 300 police officers. That's exactly what the Praetorians did. But the other thing Elizabeth wrote kind of reminds me of how the Praetorians worked in ancient Rome, protecting the elite from the undesirables. You know what the undesirables were in ancient Rome? Anybody who is not the hierarchy. However, ancient Rome is one of the few ancient societies where they didn't care what race you are, you can still be their president. There were several, hello Bailey Vext, there are several Roman emperors who were black. Train. Now this video is about equality. There's a lot of stuff that I see that, well, you're not allowed to say anything. You're not allowed. You can't say anything. You know it's wrong. You see it's wrong. You feel it's wrong. You can't say nothing. A lot of people keep telling me, Sean, you need to put yourself in these people's shoes. With all due respect, I've put myself in all of these people's shoes. The problem is, how many people put themselves in mine? Did Natalie put herself in my shoes? Did Licia put herself in my shoes? Did Rose? Did any of these people? No, of course they didn't. And then there's the part where I get to see these women who sent me friends requests because they wanted to get all snoopy when Natalie died. I accepted all of the friends requests, every single one of them, because I was hoping just one person would come forward. You know what the problem with that was? All of the hackers, all of the harassers, all of the BS that I had to deal with. I mean, I had people going out of their way to make sure that I was stuck on Facebook bans because they claimed that everything was spam. Spam. They didn't say, oh, Sean is threatening people's lives or anything of that nature, because I wasn't doing any of that. Now, when it got to the point where I was extremely desperate, the police absolutely wouldn't do their fucking jobs no matter what. Oh, yeah, I broke the shit out of the law. Of course, I told Detective Peterson that I was gonna. On the 29th of December 2017, I told Detective Peterson that I would commit felonies to get Natalie safe and to keep her safe. Same thing goes for her sister. If I gotta commit felonies to keep my loved ones safe, you goddamn right I will. At the same time, just because you don't agree with me caring about somebody doesn't mean that I'm gonna stop caring. Now, there's a lot of women who got on here after listening to other women, and it wasn't exactly what they expected. They thought, oh, well, this guy's going to be standing up for our rights too as women. Well, I certainly do. But I'm not going to stand up for all women. I know way too many women who don't deserve that. They have earned my disrespect completely and totally. And I absolutely refuse this sexist ideology that says that a woman is always right, that a woman can complain about men, 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 men. One thing that I have noticed throughout the entirety of my life is that a woman has more of a choice in who she dates than a man does. That's because of society's expectations. Socially, a man is expected to ask a woman out. A woman is supposed to say yes or no, right? Now, here's the thing. A lot of these women that I allowed onto my friends list, they post up all the time about how they need penis. Penis, 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 penis. And I look at these people and I'm like, they're posting a bunch of stuff, but I don't know these people. And I click on the little message thing. It says that we've been friends since December 2017 or January of 2018. And I'm like, well, there's no messages between us, not even one. So what's this person doing on here? So I reach out to them. Hey, what are you doing here? Well, most of them are just snooping. And then they go, oh, well, you just wanted lust after that little girl. Like, holy crap. See, you're allowed to not only to want sex and to post up all over your Facebook about needing dick, but you actually have sex and you're allowed. You get shamed for finding somebody attractive. How about if you don't find somebody attractive? You still get shamed for finding that person attractive? If somebody does something screwed up to you, regardless of their gender, let's take gender completely out of it. If somebody does something screwed up to you, is it wrong? Is it wrong for somebody to do something that is inappropriate? Is it wrong for somebody to assault you? Is it wrong for somebody to slander your name? Is it wrong for somebody to send people after you because you told on them for doing something they shouldn't have done to you? It's a good point to be made. The other thing is, yes, I stick up for men too. Most of the men that I know are not in the dating pool. They're not. There's a lot of men that I know that aren't interested in dating at all. They don't want the drama that comes with having to deal with women. Are all women like that? No. But when you got a society that trains men and women that they're completely different creatures, and our whole society teaches this, it's difficult to find those few who don't believe that BS and that jargon. Now, I see a lot of hate stuff from Christians, right? So when I see a lot of hateful posts from Christians, I go after the Christian community. Do I go after them with axes, and hand grenades, and chainsaws, and machine guns, and stuff like that? No. I feed them the same stuff that they're feeding. I feed them the same hate back. Well, to some degree, I don't do the whole threatening their lives nonstop crap. Elizabeth typed, "You can't be for empowering women if you exclude men." Absolutely, I agree with that. While at a domestic violence shelter, I was blown away by how many men needed protecting from their partners and were turned away or even shamed by advocates. See, now this is a woman who's typing this. This is stuff that I've been saying for years, but I have a penis, so it's not as important for me. It's not as powerful for me. I have the tag mentally ill, which means that I'm not as important and my words don't mean as much, if anything at all. Now, there's a lot of stuff that's really screwed up. Like when it comes to rape, I don't fuck around. I don't. When it comes to child molestation, I don't fuck around. The problem is that with the tag mentally ill, police just won't listen. And then there's the homeless thing on top of it. And police across the United States are taught how not to listen to homeless people, what tactics they can use, and what government funds they can waste in order to prevent that homeless person from speaking. Then you end up being what's called a roll through. When they call you mentally ill, you basically become, well, fodder for the jails. Oh, we're below 90% capacity. Better go pick up one of the roll throughs. Zach Boatman might be out there. If Zach Boatman's out there, well, Sean just hit our list, so you can go after him. And that's truly how it is. Now, then there's the fact that you can accuse people of certain things and they will never get an honest day in court. Now, if a man truly does those things, instead of going and spreading slander about him all over the place, take him to court. Take him to court if he did those things. Take him to court for those things. Now, through all of this, the pride I had is that Natalie didn't want to tell the truth. She didn't want to tell her mom the truth. And knowing the things that I know about her family, it makes perfect sense. I wouldn't want to tell her mom the truth either. Mom, you are driving me to the point that I want to kill myself. I already attempted to kill myself by driving my vehicle into a telephone pole. Yeah, that's not going to go over well with Rose. Do I go off on men as well? I certainly do. I certainly do. See, we've gotten to the point in our society where it is okay to be racist as long as you're only racist against white people. It is okay to be sexist as long as you are only sexist against males. And that's not acceptable. Now, a lot of people, right now, we got a lot of the back of the busters. Nah. Let me explain this one to you. Matter of fact, we'll see if I can find it on my phone so I can actually read it to you as it's stated instead of having to try to remember it off the top of my head. It says I got 7 notifications. Let's see. This might take a minute. I do apologize. Maybe it's this one. No. All right. We shall find it. Here's one that's kind of odd to me. It says white women in Louisville line up to protect black protesters. Now this guy Trevor, he typed cool, run them over also. Now mind you, Trevor is actually the boyfriend of someone that I helped to find. But this guy is being a racist asshole instead. Like, I don't agree with racism no matter who it's from. Let's see. 3-digit IQ. I do have a 3-digit IQ. It's 172. Statistically speaking, out of every 70 towns in America, towns and cities, there's only one person with an IQ of 172. Now you notice that I still stutter over my speech, chew on my tongue, chew on my foot, whatever. But the thing is that it doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what gender you are. If you can see another human being as a human being, that's what I'm after. Now, one of these posts, the guy was typing about how, I took a screenshot of it. That might help. All right, let's find this. I'm sorry I didn't have it all set up ahead of time. Try not to be a jerk about it. Oh, it's taking some time. No. A whole bunch of people typing stuff at me like, murderer! Fuck you. All right. This was posted by Adam Campbell. It says, my interpretation, or my personal interpretation of Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter. Bob is sitting at the dinner table. Everyone else gets a plate of food except Bob. Bob says, Bob deserves food. Everyone at the table responds with, everyone deserves food, and continues eating. Although everyone deserves food is a true statement, it does nothing to actually rectify the fact that Bob has no food. And then Bianca wrote, you better say it again. See, now that right there is the best way for me to block your post altogether. Read that again. With all due respect, I read the whole Bible front to back when I was 6 years old. Then this Kelly Beal typed, doing a screen cap and posting Adam. This is the best explanation I've seen for Black Lives Matter. Well, here's my response. And you don't have to like it. I don't give a shit if you do. The fact is, we are all human beings. My response is this. Maybe Bob shouldn't assume everyone else got a plate, or that only Bobs don't get a plate. Maybe Bob ignoring the other 28 people going hungry and wanting everyone else to fight for just Bob to get a plate shows that Bob only cares about Bob. Let's see. Maybe Bob should get together with the other 28 people who have no food and take the food that is rightfully theirs from the guy hoarding all the food and telling the 29 hungry people at the table it's for their safety and security, while pigging out in front of them and puking it into a bucket to make more room to waste more in front of them. Then blame each person for being stolen from. There are literally more homeless killed by cops than minorities. And black folks ain't the only minorities being murdered. Try the Native Americans. While black protests get international attention, Native protests are rarely mentioned beyond local news, and even then, it might not make it off the reservation. Let's see. problem is that people can't see people as other human beings anymore because they have been manipulated by their governments and media to pigeonhole others into stereotypes and groups, causing division everywhere. That's exactly the point. You call somebody mentally ill, nobody wants to fucking hang out with them. They're mentally ill. Like I got the fucking plague or something. But then again, mentally ill ain't the way that you should describe me. But I don't get to choose how you describe me. Labels are easier to control. See, according to the law, because of my disabilities, I should have had an advocate and I should have had a. You're underage, it's called a guardian ad litem. However, when you're an adult, state to state, they all call it something different. Problem is, I didn't have one. So, by using that label and preventing me from having an advocate, basically they can do whatever the hell they want to. It's their word against mine, and I'm the one mentally ill, and they're the one with the badge, so they're obviously the good guy. Meanwhile, how many of y'all have actually looked into how many homeless people are killed every year by police? If you take all minorities who were shot by police in a year and you put them all together into a group, they have still killed more homeless people. Now let's take a look at how they killed them. There's something that I've been speaking out about for a while now. It's called exposure. Most of the natives, they die of exposure, or so the police say. However, the police keep saying things like that before there's even an autopsy, which means that, well, they're not really investigating these native girls' deaths. And it is mostly girls. Now, a lot of people are pissed off at me because I don't accept the narrative that it's always a man's fault and a woman is never to blame. With all due respect, how many teachers just in the last year, how many female teachers have had sex with their male students or female students and actually been busted? And for every one that gets busted, how many of them out there aren't getting busted? It's a good question, isn't it? Now, something that, first of all, is really starting to get on my nerves is that I know a lot of white people who are going through the same stuff. Exactly the same stuff? Well, no. It's like saying men go through exactly the same stuff as women. Shit, no two men go through exactly the same thing. It's kind of like no two Christians can agree on Jesus. Now, I've been trying to hear that. I've been trying to hear from Christians what their opinion is. And that'd be nice, if they could all agree on the same Jesus. A lot of people say we should bring Jesus into the school. Well, we've been killing each other over Jesus. Christians have been killing other Christians over which Jesus is the real Jesus for, well, close to 2,000 years. So when we're talking about freedom of speech, freedom of religion, you don't want Muslims in your school because they're evil. I keep hearing this. I know a lot of Muslims. None of them have ever done me any harm. None. Not one. Most of the people who did me harm are Christians. Then again, I live in the United States where there is a lot more Muslims than Christians. Are Muslims less than human? No, they're absolutely as human as you and I. Well, as human as you, since I'm not considered human by our society. When I say our society, I say our only because I am expected to take part. I don't want to take part in this. Are you kidding me? We got soldiers being sent over to foreign countries to shoot foreign kids for a constitution that doesn't even exist anymore. And then we got police here in the United States doing to United States citizens things that are illegal in war. Illegal in war. Did you know that torture is illegal? Even in wartime, torture is illegal. But you change the words just a little bit and it makes it okay. Instead of calling it torture, you call it pain compliance. No, you were causing someone physical harm in order to force their will. Now, what are some of the things they're trying to force your will with? Well, first of all, a guilty plea. If you're broke and don't have the money for a civil lawyer, they will literally, psychologically, and physically torture you to the point that you give in. Now, when I was in Arapahoe County Jail, one of the guys that I was in there with was there for a petty offense. He was in there for 5 months and still had not had a court date. Like, how can you be in here for 5 months and not have a court date? He said, I'm black. I asked some of the other black folks in there, I'm like, they do that to all black people? No, pretty much just him. He's been bitching about it since he got here. I said, well, has he had a court date? No. He's just been sitting here bitching every day about not getting his court date. Well, that sucks for him. Apparently, they don't do it to all black people. But the other thing is, if that man's been in there for 5 months without a court date, what the fuck is going on? But the other thing is, if I stick up for the people that you want to hate on, that doesn't make me a bad person. If you want to hate on all white people did this, white people did that. And I look at all of these protests going all the way back to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. himself. There were white people marching with him. White people, white men, white women, white, WHITE. Are all of those white people bad? Are they? Are the white people who have stood next to these minorities? I'm not talking about just black people, all right? Because we're not talking about just a black issue here. This get to the back of the bus if you ain't black bullshit needs to go out the fucking window. There are homeless people being victimized, and yes, some of them are white, some of them are Christian, some of them are Jews, some of them are atheists, some of them are Satanists. They're still human beings. Let's read this on the side. Let's see. This is why the government is so easily taking that control in any way they can now. Elizabeth Train. It says that can only Elizabeth type that can only continue for so long. Let's see. We're about to top the death toll from World War I with this virus in the U.S., and citizens are getting too tired and too angry about the neglect to ignore it any longer. Really? We're approaching World War I death toll? Let's see what the United States, because I got the internet right at my fingertips. Let's see. WW1 United States death. All right. United States death toll from World War I. American losses in World War I were modest compared to those of other belligerents, with 116,516 deaths and approximately 320,000 sick and wounded of the 4.7 million men who served. The USA lost more personnel to disease, 63,114, than to combat, 53,402, largely due to the influenza epidemic of 1918. All right, so we've had 116,000 deaths in the United States. That's pretty freaky. They can make numbers say whatever they want. It depends on what you allow in and what you take out. What I'm talking about, though, what I'm fighting for is true equality. Now, there's laws that are supposed to allow us that true equality, like the right to face your accusers, the right to show evidence, the right to be safe while doing so. Now, a lot of the stuff, like that guy who typed that thing that I was reading to y'all earlier, you make the assumption that it's not happening to anybody else. You know, I ran into that same mentality up there on the reservation in Montana. Not from very many people, though. See, here's the difference between the way the black community is raised, and that isn't to say that all black people are raised that way, and the way that the Native American community is raised, and that's not to say that every Native American is raised that way. The Native Americans that are Crow up there in the Lodge Grass area, and this is up by the Little Bighorn River. There's Lodge Grass, and there's Hardin, and there's Crow Agency, all in the same area. And the natives there treated me like I was equal. I wasn't treated like, well, like I didn't belong there. That's for certain. It was inclusive. All of the Native Americans that I ran into down there and spoke with treated me like a human being, treated me with dignity, treated me with respect, and I treated them the same. Yes, it is radical. It absolutely is radical. The idea that you could have the same freedoms as a squirrel. There's a tree out here. There's a squirrel that lives in that tree. He doesn't pay any fucking rent. Maybe I should go lock him up or kick him out for not paying rent. He owes me taxes. That son of a bitch needs to get a job. He's a squirrel. Does that squirrel really care what that piece of paper says about who owns it? No, he doesn't. But you do. You were born into a country where you don't own anything, but you yourself are owned. You are on this land, whether you want to be here or not. You're on the land. You're going to exist on this land, no matter who claims ownership. When it all comes down to it, let's see. I am nuts. I certainly am nuts. I like to tell people I'm nuttier than squirrel turds. Or fruitier than bat shit. That one works too. Totally does. And I get you, Elizabeth. Yeah. Elizabeth typed, I've thought about reclaiming German citizenship, but I'm not willing to relocate yet again. It's really an emotional thing to go through a move. I mean, it's not just the emotions that you have to go through of leaving everybody and everything that you know. There's also the financial aspect of it, you know. I mean, it costs a lot to move. I've moved over 30 times in the last 2 years. Over 30. Um, yeah, don't it suck? My friend Kinga, she was going to come forward, but she's being deported despite the fact that she is now an American citizen. She took the test. Any of y'all who are familiar with those words, you've seen a movie about World War One and fighting in the trenches. Maybe I'll put a clip to that up here. Let's see. Makata Cleveland typed, I'm a new subby. Oh, it's been retracted. Oh well. It was that fast. Inside the mind of an INFJ. What's an INFJ? I was watching your videos the other night after watching that documentary about you. I'm yet to finish watching them all, but I wanted to say my heart goes out to you. You are very strong. Some days I am strong. I mean, I grew up in the 90s. This is the no fear generation. No fear this, no fear that. Got to have the no fear shirt. And if you don't have stuff that says no fear with the Jinko jeans, you're just not a cool person. It turns out that all of the people that were running around, no fear, no fear, no fear, are the most fearful people that I know. Too afraid to come forward, too afraid to speak up, too afraid to do what's right. Bravery is not the absence of fear, it's standing up in the face of it. Now, if you're raped and you're trying to take it to court, I am on your side 100%. As a victim of child molestation and rape, you're goddamn right. We have to stick together. But pretending that I can't be a victim because I have a penis, God, that is as far from the truth as possible. Well, we're talking about 1 in 4 girls being molested by the time they're 16. We're talking about 1 in 6 boys. So it's still a decent rate up there, isn't it? 1 in 6 boys. I want you to look at your 6 best male friends. The chances of one of them being raped is pretty high. The chances of them telling you is pretty low. Boys start committing suicide at 5 times the rate of women, or of girls, starting at the age of 15. Girls start cutting themselves at 5 times the rate of boys at the age of 15. Why is that? Because we're taught different. That's about the age where you're telling a man he's got to man up. He's got to man up. You're a man now. You're a man now. You got to man up. You got to take care of it yourself. You got to take care of it yourself. You got to man up. Just stuff them emotions. Stuff them emotions. You're not allowed to have emotions. You have a penis. And many of the women that I know, they're taught that their personal business is important, no matter how trivial it is. But a man's personal problems are always drama, no matter what. And our society teaches this. Our society teaches this racism. Our society teaches this sexism as a means of separation, divide and conquer. You're right, Elizabeth. Did you know that the number one reason for cutting? It's a two-parter. Imagine that. See, a lot of girls cut themselves, but it takes a very specific combo in most cases to bring that about. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of women who, the deep cutters, they do it because cutting themselves deep, it actually releases endorphins and makes them feel better. But most of them start off cutting with a lady Bic, just trying to get attention. Now, are they trying to get attention for attention's sake? No. No. 80% of the time, when a child is molested, it's one of the parents. One of the parents. Most of the time, it's the dad. Now, that cutting doesn't come from being molested. It comes from not being heard. Shannon Alvarado with one of the conversations, well, several of the conversations that we had, and several of the other women that have gone through this. or a close family member. That's right. 80% though are one or the other parent. 80%. The additional 20% is other close friends or family members, and in less than 1% of the cases, it's a complete stranger. So, roundabout 1 in 1,000 is actually a complete stranger. But that's the one that you guys are the most scared of. A stranger might do this. A stranger might do this. You're going to ignore the real danger, the highest chance of danger, for the lowest chance. You'll turn a blind eye to your husband raping your daughter, but you'll go ape shit on some homeless people because you're afraid of them, because they might, because you've been taught this about homeless people. Now, when I was over in Virginia, I was working at a labor aid, and most of the laborers are black, and most of the managers are white people. That's just the whole East Coast from what I saw. But did I see the whole East Coast? No, I didn't. Not even close. I saw Virginia and I saw North Carolina. In North Carolina, I didn't see the beach. I didn't see the ocean. I didn't see the coastline. Now, the workers down there, I was the only white guy at a labor ready. So obviously I'm eating lunch with the people at a labor ready. It's a whole bunch of black people. And then there's a whole bunch of white managers over the side and eating their lunch. And I asked, why it is. And everybody was kind of giving their own reasons. And then it's like everybody chimed up at once. It's just what their granddaddy taught them. And that hits the nail right on the fucking head. Right there. It's just what their granddaddy taught them. Racism is learned. People have to teach you to hate. Opioid addiction. Most of the people that I know, that's Makata Cleveland, I probably pronounced that wrong, because someone close to you is who did the hurt, so strangers are safer. At least that's what my therapist told me. It could be. Most of the people that I know who are addicted to opioids started off with an injury. Broken foot, broken leg, something that you have to stand on. Screwed up back is probably the worst, because that'll drive you crazy. You can't take care of yourself at that point. But then they take these medications, and the medications, they cut off the signal to your brain that tells you that you have a problem. That's what pain receptors are. That's your body's way of telling you you've got a problem. There's a major issue here. You cut your finger and you feel it. Why do you feel it? So that you're aware. Do something about it. Natalie was different. Natalie got started on heroin because of her dad. He had her selling drugs down on Pearl Street when she was 13. I didn't find that out till she was 18. She told me. But the thing is, I have severe panic attacks. I don't sleep much. Last night I got zero sleep. The reason that I got zero sleep is because I can't see my loved ones. That's the thing that has been the major issue this whole time. You want to go spreading rumors, you want to go talking trash in Virginia, you want to do whatever the hell you want there, go ahead, but don't ruin my life. Don't slander my life to the point that I have people assaulting me and threatening my life for a whole year before Natalie was killed. The messages between Tim Beeson and I, that shows you that he's spouting the shit at me that Natalie never said. But he's spouting this shit at me, threatening my life, calling me a child molester and a bunch of other creepy shit. I'm like, Jesus, dude, you've been fucking her since she was 14. I mean, you should be in prison, Tim Beeson, but you're not. Why aren't you? Oh, yeah, because you got lucky. I got called mentally ill, and magically nothing that I say matters. She probably did have some sociopathic tendencies, but that's tendencies. That doesn't mean she was sociopathic. See, here's the thing about Natalie. She was my best friend for a reason. Natalie was extremely good to me in person. All of our interactions in person were positive. Every single one. It wasn't until I got dehydrated and fucking stuck it outside of her house on my or a few days after my birthday, sorry. I mean, I literally hadn't slept in 5 days by that point. By the time I left Virginia, I hadn't slept in 7 days. It's difficult. Now, a lot of the thing that people have assumptions of, I'm having to deal with. Like, the assumption that because I type something in response of the equalitarian nature, that it means that I believe that BS. Well, in some cases I do, in some cases I don't. I just try to put up as much of a compelling argument as I can. If you're going to blame all men for your problems, I'm going to blame all women for mine. If you're going to blame all Christians for your problems, or you're going to blame all Muslims for your problems, I'm going to blame all Christians for mine. If you're going to blame all homeless people for the drug addiction problems, you getting what I'm saying here? Now, we got a society that is giving women a free ride. Does that mean that women get free money and they don't have to work or any of that kind of stuff? No. It means that if they do something wrong, there are 3 things that they can say about a man that'll magically make it all go away. Magically make that man a target. Magically alleviate the terrible things that you have done. It's not right for men, then it's not right for women. If it's not right for women, then it's not right for men. Now, I keep hearing about how we need to basically go to the back of the bus for black rights. We're all fighting for black rights. Fuck black rights. And that's not a racist statement. No, I don't want other people to have special rights. That is what I am against. Special rights. Special rights for black people. Special rights for white people. Special rights for women. Special rights for men. Get rid of all the special rights and just see each other as human beings. But that's not what we're doing. Like, I stick up for a lot of black people. I really do. I believe that they are human too. But there's a lot of black people who get on here and tell me what a terrible person I am, that I'm mentally ill, that I'm a sicko and a weirdo and all sorts of fucked up shit like that. Well, thank you very much for proving my point. You want to judge me, but you don't know me. Then again, you want to be pissed off that people are judging you without knowing you, for whatever reason. Maybe it's because of their skin color, but for the most part, it's not. Racism is a byproduct. A lot of the white people I know, they have no problems with black people. No black person ever did them anything wrong. So why aren't they jumping on the bandwagon? Because they get sick of being told that it's their fault because they're white. You like being told that it's your fault because you're black? You like being told that you're probably guilty because you're black? How do you think that feels for a homeless person? When I say that women should be held accountable, I'm not being sexist. I am fighting sexism. Because a lot of the women that I know have not been held accountable for their crimes. Like Lexi Delgado. Lexi Delgado wanted to try claiming that her ex had raped her. I was there for the incident. No, he didn't rape her. She attacked him sexually. She wanted sex. She got sex. Now, meanwhile, A lot of these people, like, Tim Beeson and people like that, who want to go out and have sex with people, it's all right for them to have sex. It's all right for Tim Beeson, an adult, to have sex with an underage Natalie Bollinger for some reason. I don't know what. Then I got people saying, oh, well, you just wanted to have sex with her. Jesus Christ, look at our messages between each other. Obviously, I wasn't trying to get into her pants. I mean, how many times in there in the messages between me and Natalie and our fucking Facebook Messenger, how many times did she say that she used to think she was in love with me? Quite a few. And she typed that she loved me every day that I was in Virginia. Almost every day. Now, are you going to tell somebody that you love them if they're stalking you? See, that's where this whole stalker business started, was in Virginia. They claimed that I stayed behind Natalie's work for weeks. Natalie didn't work there. Alicia did. It was the Cricket store at the mall in Chesapeake. And guess what? It was Alicia's idea for me to stay there. And guess what? Alicia is still alive. And guess what? For over 3 years, I've been trying to get a court date with her and Natalie. Natalie's dead. I can't get a court date with her, can I? But Alicia, I could. Except that the police had already done so much wrong. They literally did everything they could to prevent me from even going to my court dates. Everything that they could to eat up every penny of my money and force me to go back to places where I was being abused, not just by the public, but also by the police over what was on the news. And a lot of people want to say, Sean, maybe you should take a break from Facebook for a while. Facebook isn't my problem. Not being able to see my loved ones is the problem. Makata Cleveland just typed something I've been saying since the beginning. See, I'm autistic, and something that myself and many other autistic people have in common, not all of us, but many of us, I don't get embarrassed. I just don't. Anyway, she typed, I honestly understand you and her friendship. I'm sure the stalking lies came from embarrassment, which was not right. That's what I said at the very beginning. She did these horrible things because she didn't put herself in my shoes. Alicia, to this day, has not put herself in my shoes. Rose has not put herself in my shoes. Danica and Shelly have not put themselves in my shoes. They weren't even interested. They pretended like they were going to help me until they were manipulated by Kara Johnson Miles. Well, the thing is, I see the thing you typed about anonymity. I'd known Natalie and Alicia since they were 13 years old. They were friends with a girl named Maddie Boa, who was down on Pearl Street because her dad used to beat on her for being a lesbian. So when I brought up, there was actually 5 or 6 kids altogether that were down there that were really, they brought attention you really don't want. And when I talked to Officers Ramos and Paddock about it, they told me that they had as much right to be there as I did. And that's very true. It's the Boulder Public Library. Then again, I didn't spend much time at the library. I went and did my rounds, went and checked up on my friends, and went back to Starbucks. Now, at this point in time, I didn't even know Natalie and Alicia's name. When I caught them with Emery and Arturo, I told them to go home, and I didn't see them for a few years. I figured they went home. I didn't find out later until Well, much later, I found out in June or July of 2016, I want to say, that all of the shit that her dad had done and her mom had done. And I already knew about her Uncle Troy, and I already knew about Tim, and I already knew about Ted, but there's a lot more that went in along with that. There's a lot of stuff that she told me that I don't have because she told me it, she didn't type it at me. But yeah, I mean, it's been a giant pain in the ass. It's destroyed every friendship that I had, and I had to go back to people who I got rid of for a reason. All of the people that I got rid of when I was in Virginia in 2016, I got rid of them because they weren't good to me. They pulled a lot of shady shit that they shouldn't have. That was Amanda Engeline and Lana Engeline and Jerry Sparks and Tyler Frericks. And, well, I got rid of the whole clan all at once. If I'm going to get ganged up on, I just don't want to have anything to do with you. Now, after Natalie's death, all of those people I'd gotten rid of, those people, and also Candace Bondurant and my dad, and so many other people who were just negative people in my life, I got rid of them. I was done with them. I blocked them. And after Natalie's death, each one of these people offered to help me. I should have known better. It's a matter of control and power for many of these people. My dad, absolutely. He loves power. Hate flies. If he lands again, I'll kill him and hold him up in front of the camera so you know I did it. Oh, that lucky little bastard. Oh, I will get him. You just got to move extra slow. I use the clapping technique. Flies, they fly up and backwards slightly. So you take your hands above them, just barely, move them slowly, smack your hands right onto them. It'll squish them into your palms, but it'll die. There's a guy named Tom Nelson. He had a 4-H thing, and I killed over 1,000 flies at the 4-H thing. 4-H, that's basically it's kind of like FFA, Future Farmers of America, but it's the livestock portion of it for the most part. And as a result, you're constantly surrounded by the smell of shite. That fly is really going at it, ain't he? He isn't going to stop. Oh, he just landed on my mouse and went away. Sorry for going off on that tangent. The thing is, I don't hear from the Native American community about how black people need to shut up and get to the back of the bus. I see how the black community is taught differently than the Native community. Now, it'd be nice if we could get more people to think like the natives. Which natives in specific, you might ask? Well, let me tell you something about Washington State. There's Native Americans there. It's a different set of rules. It's a different set of totems. It's a different set of lodgings. But let's say you're in the Sandhills area. There's stuff you got to remember. If you're in the Sandhills area, you don't make eye contact with your elders. You stare at the ground and you listen. For me, I'm autistic, so that works better for me anyway. If I'm looking you in the eye, I am too busy focused on looking you in the eye. As a result, I'm not hearing everything that you're saying because I am focusing on looking you in the eye. I moved too fast again. That's just because I really want to show you a dead fly. How weird is that? See, I hope you do more of these live streams. You have some really good insights. I have to get back to finishing 3 pieces of copy for the day. Makata, Nurse, and INFJ. It was a genuine pleasure. Inside the mind of an INFJ, have a good day, Elizabeth. And do have a good day, Elizabeth. Through all of this, I needed someone to go in with me in person. Now, I started trying to find somebody well before Natalie was killed. First time I went to speak to Derek and JoJo, I want to say it was March of 2017. The first time I went there. I also went to Miss Peaches on 4 separate occasions. I went to Derek and JoJo's on 3 separate occasions. I went to my therapy appointments with Nicole Peralta and met with my caterer. Her name was Tamara. The problem with Tamara is that, well, after meeting me and realizing what I'd gone through because of my disabilities, her son being autistic and having Asperger's, she quit her job to make sure that what happened to me didn't happen to her son. Now, mind you, this is before Natalie was killed. After Natalie was killed, I mean, everything got 1,000 times worse. Tamara quit her job. She was afraid of her son going through what I used to go through. Used to. Because like I said, it's 1,000 times worse. I don't get to see my loved ones. Chapel, Nebraska, historically, not a good place for me. Most of the people that I know who are still in town, they don't really like people. The 3 people that I have stayed with and hung out with since I've been in town, they don't like people. They don't hang out with people. The guy that I lived with most of the winter, he doesn't like people, can't stand them because people are shitty to him. Of course, it's a small town, and he's got a ex-stepdad who works for the city who's also a jackass. He's only a Christian when it suits him. Imagine that. I should probably turn off this video because it's over an hour long. But I just want to impress the point upon you that if you're going to be posting up half-naked pictures of Jason Momoa and talking about how men are pigs, you need to look in the mirror. There used to be these signs. Now, guys weren't allowed to have pictures in Cabela's of half-naked women. That was against the rules. You're not allowed to have, even if it's just a bikini, you're not allowed to have that calendar in Cabela's corporate office. However, women were allowed to post up all over the office these little photocopies. It's a baby crying, and it says, "So many men, so little aspirin." That's not sexist. That doesn't belong in the work environment. So sexism is okay if a woman does it, but not for a man. Is that what you're saying? Racism is okay as long as you're not white. Is that what you're saying? Because I disagree with all of it. I don't think that racism is okay no matter what color your skin is. And I don't care what your granddaddy taught you. You come around me dropping that N-bomb, I'm gonna say something. You can hear that in multiple conversations that I've had. I don't know if I posted up the one where Tabby's using the N-word, but she is about the most vulgar with it. There's the one with Bobby where he's trying to defend the fact that he said the word. He's like, oh, well, you know, there's one of them in every skin color. I'm like, just don't use the word. And don't try telling me that that means ignorant, because it doesn't. According to the Webster's Dictionary, the N-word means, no, it fucking doesn't. Look up Webster's Dictionary. Look up the definition of that word. You will notice that it is very specifically a racist term. A racist term for who? White people? No. Native American people? No. That is a derogatory racial slur in specific towards black people. And you notice I say black people and not African American, right? Because not all black people come from Africa, dumbass. You think all black people, you notice there's an equator, goes all the way around the planet, right? And the people who are closest to the equator are the darkest. Yes, there are people in Mexico who are native to Mexico who are black. There are people in Africa who are black. There are people in Australia who are black. There are people in the Philippines who are black. Now then, we got to talk about black versus white, right? Like we shouldn't make that comparison. Well, you know, you white people get to have your culture and your heritage, and it wasn't stolen from you. But us black people, we all had ours stolen. Well, with all due respect, lots of people had theirs stolen. I don't have a heritage. I mean, I happen to know that I'm a mutt. Does that make me better off than a black person who is probably also a mutt? See, here's the thing. You got two choices. You're either inbred or you're a mutt. And genetically speaking, it's probably more healthy for you to be a mutt. Genetically speaking, it is probably unhealthy for you to be 100% of something. Now then we got these asshats who want to say, oh, well, you know, I'm 100% German. I'm like, first of all, you were born in the United States. Second of all, Germany has only been a country for what, 230 years? Let's look this up. I could be wrong about that. It could be 130. When did Germany become a country? Let's find this out. Now, we're not talking about the Holy Roman Empire. October 3rd, 1990. I guess that's when they consolidated. The first date is when Germany was recognized as a region on February 2nd, 962 AD. The second date is January 18th, 1871, when Germany became a unified state. Finally, October 3rd, 1990 was when East Germany and West Germany were united to form the present Federal Republic of Germany. So 1871 to 1971 to 81 to 91, 2001, 2011. It's almost 150 years, 149 years. It's 12:30 a.m. here in Australia, so I need to go. Have a great day to you and everyone. You two inside the mind of an INFJ. Be safe. Moon just subbed last night. Hope you're well during these times. That's a term that I've seen a lot. Subbed. SUBBED. What does it mean? Must be a delay or something. Well, plus I gotta wait for him to type. Subscribe to your channel. Yeah, I'm not familiar with a lot of this stuff. If you notice, my videos aren't really edited. I mean, the closest you get to editing is when I have my camera and I turn it on for a couple of seconds, take a screenshot, and then video part of it, and then I pause it, and then I'll video some more, and then pause it, and then video some more, and then pause it. That way, in between, when I'm clicking from one screenshot to another, you don't have to sit there through all of the clicking. But I don't know how to do any of the actual editing on my computer. That's something that's been used to prevent me from being able to defend myself, is the fact that I haven't had those abilities. When I say I need somebody in person, I actually mean in person. Now, when a homeless person is murdered by police, it's not treated at all like it is when the police murder a black person. When the police murder a homeless person, it doesn't hit the papers. There's no Black Lives Matters march. Nobody gives a holy fuck about you. If you're black and homeless, Black Lives Matters doesn't give a shit. They're not going to pick up your case. They're not going to speak up. They're not going to nothing. You're not human if you're homeless. You're not human to any community in the United States if you're homeless. You're not welcome in San Francisco. You're not welcome in Portland, Oregon. You're not welcome in Washington State. You're not welcome anywhere. You're not welcome here in Chapel, Nebraska if you're homeless. If you're homeless and a traveler, by the time you've walked from one end of town to the other, about 15 minutes, because it's 1 mile from the sale barn where they used to sell cattle to the feedlot where they feed the cattle. In the 15 minutes it'll take you march from one side of this town to the other, you'll get at least 10 people to call you in, and the police will stop and talk to you. Police do this nationwide. Nobody wants to see poverty. We live in a capitalist nation, and we don't want people to see that a capitalist nation means that in reality, only the rich get anything. See, there's lots of people all over the world that think that every single American has 2 cars and a garage. Whew! Boy, oh boy, the things that we sell fancifully to foreigners. 40% of our population lived below the poverty line before this whole COVID-19 thing. Elizabeth types, sorry, one last thing. The protests seen on television as throwing things and setting fires aren't the majority of what's happening. Don't believe the hype. I live right off Nicollet, Minneapolis. Well, I'm going to make another video about that, because there's a lot of stuff you can do in a riot situation, as well as a peaceful protest situation, to defend yourself and others without getting anybody killed. Also, I keep reading about they. I get sick and tired of hearing about white people, and men. When it all comes down to it, as much as I am against that, I am also against hating on all black people because there were people who were doing stuff illegal. I'm fine with people breaking the law. You have my permission to break the law for your own safety, for the safety of your loved ones. However, we're getting pretty screwed up in the situation that we're in now, because everybody wants us to focus on their group. Whoa, we need to stop focusing on black people. What about women? Whoa, we need to stop focusing on women. What about the missing and murdered indigenous women? Well, hold on a second. We can't pay attention to them because of the immigrants. Hold on a second here. Black people are people. Natives are people. White people are people. Men are people. Women are people. Immigrants are people. These are all human beings. Are you missing that part? I might have to sneeze. Now let's say there was 10,000 people protesting. First of all, don't blame all black people. Not all 10,000 of those people who were protesting were black. Many of those people protesting and marching with Black Lives Matters are not black. There are a large portion of them, believe it or not, who are actually white. And I know a lot of them. I've marched with Black Lives Matter. But what's the point there? Why would I march when I'm obviously not black? Because those are my rights too. See, black people want special rights, right? All black people do? No, that's not true. Some black people, just like some white people, some native people, want us to be equal. That's what they're fighting for, is equality. And anybody who's going to pretend like it's not happening is completely screwed in the head. But the other thing is, with those 10,000 people who are doing those things, what are they doing? Are all of those 10,000 people taking and rioting? Are all of those 10,000 people lighting fires? Are all of those 10,000 people throwing bricks? No, not by a long shot. One of them protests they had a few years back, they had that protest because another black man was killed. And we have protests when black men are killed. We don't have any protests when it's the homeless people. The homeless people won't even protest because you know already that as a homeless person, if you protest, you will be incarcerated. Do not pass go. Do not collect 200. Now, for me to say that it is not a black issue is 100% true. For me to say that it has nothing to do with racism, well, it absolutely has to do with racism. That just adds to it. Whatever we can do to keep each other separated, right? Whatever laws we can introduce to prevent the poor from speaking up, from having the money to take care of themselves, let alone jump through all the hoops. Sandra Bland. No, but I'm about to look it up. All right, folks, we're going to look up Sandra. Oh, wow, it's the first one up here, too. Sandra Bland. It's above Sandra Bullock and Sandra Lee. That's amazing. Sandra Bland was a 28-year-old African-American woman who was found hanged in a jail cell in Waller County, Texas on July 13th, 2015, 3 days after being arrested during a pretextual traffic stop. Her death was ruled a suicide. You might want to give me some details on that. The only way that black lives are actually going to matter is if we look at them as human beings and say they matter. They do matter. And that's what needs to happen here, but not just blacks. All right? Native Americans do matter. Those two groups need to work together. Now, I've been seeing this picture. It's two white guys, and it's talking about how the KKK is out there doing the blah, 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 and they got these military grade rifles for killing black people. It's only half the picture. On my Facebook, I showed that picture and all the stuff that it said, and then I showed the full picture. And guess what? You know what's in the full picture? 3 black men with military grade rifles not getting shot at by those supposed KKK dudes. Standing right next to them, not behind them. Standing together as equals. Now, a lot of people want to say, well, you know, these people getting violent, you know, that there's no excuse for that. With all due respect, there absolutely is. Vandalism is an acceptable American tradition. That's right. Let's go toss some tea, homies. With me, when it came down to having to make a stand, I broke a lot of shit. And I'm proud of myself for breaking those things instead of those people. Natalie was suicidal and was killed. And I do believe that there's a possibility that you're right, but I don't have enough details to make that decision. I will look into Sandra Bland in a little bit. That way I know what the hell I'm talking about. Well, that's not true. Anything that's typed on the internet is subject to suspicion. That's something I have definitely learned. Through all the stuff that I've gone through and all the slander that people want to post up, there's a big difference between what people write and what the truth really is. But people have to be willing to look at both sides, which has not happened. Not even one of these people who claim that they cared sat down with me to look at that evidence. Not one of them sat down with me to help me to get a lawyer. Not one of them wrote down the statements that they claimed they were gonna. That's not true. Graham did write down two of them. But the police wouldn't take him because it wasn't on official police parchment. I am not cool, nor am I a cucumber. But thank you, I suppose. You should go through my videos. You'll see a few of them of me having severe fucking meltdowns and screaming at the computer screen. I'm not always that cool. Sometimes I am straight up freaking out. Sometimes I am scared shitless. Last night, you know what kept me up? Same thing that's kept me up for 3 years. The thought of not being able to see my loved ones in Boulder, Colorado, including my junky ass older brother. Well, how can you say you love him if you call him a junkie? I'm fucking realistic, dude. I am fucking realistic. Yes, my brother is into meth, just like Ted Bollinger, just like Alicia Bollinger and Natalie Bollinger. And of course, Ted Bollinger and fucking Danica. That's Danica Garner. And, probably half the people that offered to help me are addicts. Now, why do I say junkie instead of addict? Well, I take a assessment of the situation. If it's a pretty girl, she is an addict. Everyone else is a junkie. That's the way American society is. Well, I got lots of male friends of mine who are also junkies. A pretty girl can use her looks to get drugs, drugs, drugs galore. And I have seen this most of my life. My mother is addicted to cocaine. Has been since before I was born. My dad, too. Matter of fact, there's a few conversations between me and my Aunt Mary on here where we discussed that. We also discussed when my dad went to prison. My dad tried to play it off. He never went to prison, and then he tried playing it off like it was just over marijuana. And I am looking for an ashtray. I'm not just looking around absent-mindedly trying to figure out which direction my asshole is pointed. This will work. Natalie was my best friend for a reason. Now, there's a lot of people that I had to deal with that twisted my words or outright lied about what I said because they were trying to protect their buddies. One of those people was the mental health lady at the jail in Scotts Bluff. Her best friend is actually the guy who had assaulted me in Scotts Bluff Hospital a year earlier. His name is Ruben. Now, she wrote down that I was delusional. And I asked her, first of all, she wrote down things that I didn't say, and I confronted her about it. I said, hey, that's not what I told you. You're writing down whatever the hell you want. She said, this session is over. And she got up and she left. Turns out And I was explaining to her that I was going to sue the police as soon as I got out of there, and I was going to go after the guy who had assaulted me in the Scottsbluff Hospital in court. Well, at the time, I didn't realize she worked at both places. And so she wrote delusional down. And I asked her why she wrote that, because when I was transferred from jail to the hospital, surprise, surprise, I'm not even allowed in that hospital at this point, but they sent me there instead of releasing me from jail like they should have, based on this woman who is protecting, well, the guards of that jail who assaulted me, as well as Ruben, who assaulted me at the hospital. Now, why did she say that I was delusional? I'll tell you. She claimed that I was delusional because I said Natalie was my friend. She was. You look from when we first started talking to each other until I left Virginia, we were friends. When I was supposedly supposed to be stalking Natalie, we were friends. So who was it that was on drugs? Was it me? No, it was Natalie. When she claimed that I was slandering her, no, I was telling the truth. And you can tell that I was telling the truth. First of all, from the tox report, shows that what I was saying about her was right. She was on heroin. A lot of people say, well, it's not everybody's business. Bitch, it don't matter whose business it is. The news was going to come out with it anyway. At least I told the truth. And I told the truth before the media. But does the truth matter? Not if you're called mentally ill. Then you got to go to the back of the bus. If you're homeless, you got to go to the back of the bus. If you're male, you got to go to the back of the bus. Enough of this back of the bus bullshit. Why the fuck am I fighting for black rights? I'm not. I'm fighting for equal rights. Equal rights for black people, for white people, for native people, for immigrants. Equal rights. Is it that difficult for you to look across the street or to your left or right at your neighbors and see them as something other than human beings? They are human beings, whether you like them or not, whether you like their opinions or not, whether you like their religion or not, whether you like their clothing or not, or the way that they look. They are still human. Now, if you want to be a man hater, you're goddamn right, I'm going to speak up. That doesn't make me sexist. Matter of fact, it makes me quite the opposite. Yes, women can be sexist. Yes, black people can be racist. I grew up in the system. I fucking know better. You can spout all the ignorance that you want at me, but personal experience counts for a lot more. Now, those of you who haven't had to go through these situations, I'm glad for that. But at the same time, because you haven't been through these situations, you don't have the education to make an informed decision. Therefore, you're just looking for an excuse to scapegoat, somebody to bully, somebody to be mean to. Maybe somebody was mean to you. You just want somebody to take it out on. Maybe your dad raped you and you still have to live at his house so that you can be safe and keep your little sister safe from it. There are a million and one different situations and scenarios where you can't go after your actual predator and you get angry and you get pissed off. You just want to take it out on somebody. You are hurting, and people who are hurt people. Did I say or do a lot of hurtful things? You goddamn right I did. But then again, take a look at the reaction time. I do one thing that people don't like. They throw a fucking goddamn fit like a goddamn 5-year-old. I literally had hundreds of threats against my life and over 30 assaults against me. That's a lot. That was before, not before Natalie died. Before Natalie died, there were only 7 people who actually assaulted me. After she died, quite a few did. Obviously, I was made a target. The news pegged me out as some sort of fucking monster. Couldn't get the help that I needed. People kept on assuming, oh, well, you're intelligent, so you should be able to do this. It doesn't matter how intelligent I am when they call me mentally ill and shut off all of my rights. That needs to be taken into account. I'm going to end this live stream. Y'all be safe. Um, I'm going to try to make a video at some point today if I'm able to get some sleep anyway. I'd like to teach y'all a little bit more about. Last time I focused a little bit on Greek tactics. This time I'll focus on Roman tactics. Be safe, y'all.